Welcome to my home garage. Today we give the A4 some new rotors. They're just pulsating too much and I can't stand it anymore. So let's tackle that. We'll even bleed the brakes and get some new brake fluid in there. Let's get at it. Quick and easy. Once you have the wheel off, you just want to pry this off. So it's pretty simple. Just that's it. Step one. Right now we're gonna put a screwdriver and pry the caliper back. Pretty simple. Just jam it all the way in so you feel it past the pad. If that doesn't work, then scratch it and just remove the slider pins. Two slider pins. The slider pins are 13 mil. If you were doing new pads, it would come with new pins. Okay, so now you can disconnect your ABS sensor. There's a connector back here, and it sits inside a slot, and you just rotate it off. Now you're free to pry your caliper back. Okay. Flip it upside down. You're going to remove your pad. Keep in mind, I'm just replacing the rotors, but if you were putting new pads, then it would come with everything new. As you can see, look, this pad is cracked. But I'm still going to reuse it. Okay, now this pad is glued in, or something. I think someone used adhesive to glue it in. So I'm going to have to pry that bracket back, and I won't be able to reuse it, unfortunately. Holy smokes. Whoever put this in here. Never wanted anyone to get it out. Nope. That's it. See? The bracket stayed with it. You don't need that backing bracket, but it's good to have. I won't be putting it back on because, as you can see, someone used a glue types pad. So do is you clean all this up, get rid of all the crust. There'll be a lot of crust in here. You want to use a wire brush, clean it all up. Like this, especially where that pad contacts. Okay. Get a pair of clamps, and you're just going to put your piston back in. Pretty simple. Push the piston all the way in. There, done. Check your sliders. They're sliding quite nicely. Normally you would lubricate them, but in my case, I'm not going to do anything. But you should. Get rid of all that rust. Especially behind here. Right behind here. There's like glue. Someone put glue on the pad. So, just gonna eliminate that. Hang your caliper. Okay. Now you're going to remove the bracket. It's a 21 millimeter. You may need a big breaker bar to get this loose. Let's see. There's one. Okay. Top one. Oh, there it is. All right. More bolts. Someone really caked them on. I'm going to clean those up. Bracket off. I'm going to clean the bracket. And now we're going to remove the rotor. It's a T30. So first thing I do is I impact forward, not to reverse, forward. That shocks it. And then I go in reverse. And that always gets it out. Okay. Now you grab a hammer. And you can see the rotor's completely shot. Okay, now we're going to tidy this all up. Okay. Okay, now just want to wire wheel. Get our new rotor on. As you can see, I lubricated the hub. I know all of you are like, oh, you can't lubricate the hub. That's not the right way to do it. Well, when you live in the winter and the rotor is not coated, you're going to lubricate the hub. Make sure it's tight. Good. Clear off all of the gunk off the bracket. Lubricate those points because those are the points that the actual pad sits on. Reinstall it. Try not to get any anti-seize on the rotor. Put your bolts back on. Give it a good and tight. Sure, these are supposed to be replaced. They're pretty big bolts, so probably close to 100 Newton meters. Just because it's the same size as a lug nut. Okay, nice and tight. Now you bring your caliper over here and you're going to install your pad with the sensor. So the sensor goes in through the hole first. Get your pad in there. Pull the wire through. And now it just fits on like so. Okay. Sand your other pad down. All I do is sand the surface nice. Pad's in. Your second pad's already in. Don't get the sensor tangled up. Okay. Push your slider pins in, like so. Should go on nice. If it doesn't want to go on, you gotta push those slider pins in. There you go. Get your pins. You should have new ones if you're doing pads. I am not doing pads. I'm just doing rotors. So I gotta reuse. Now tuck in your sensor through the brake bleeder tab. Okay. Goes back here and it twists on a bracket. You'll see it when you're doing it yourself. Okay, you can't mess it up. Pretty easy. Connect your connector until you hear click. Okay. Now tighten up your caliper pins. 1, 2. Done. There you go. Now just pry it up and down, and it should be pretty even there. And then again, just do this. You know you tightened up your 2 bolts. The other 2 bolts are going. Everything's done here. And now we're going to move on to the rear. Sorry, there's no torque specs. Look them up online. It's only torque specs when you have new bolts. When you have old bolts, there are no torque specs because it's torque to yield. Alright, so that's done. Move on to the rear. Okay guys, so on Audis, before you do any work, you got to go into the computer and you got to look, see, replace brake pads. So if you have an Autel, you go into hot functions. I'll show you the whole routine. So you would go service, EBC, electronic parking brake, Audi. Sorry, when you're at this screen, you go to 353. Okay, handbrake is off. Release parking brake. That's on. Okay. Turn the ignition switch off. Okay, all the pads are all the way back. So turn the ignition switch off, replace the brake pads, then turn the ignition on. Okay? Okay, so right now everything's off. So now we can do the work. I don't know why it was acting up. I guess you have to sit in the car, hold the brake. Okay? I got a battery tender on. So right now, we're gonna replace the rear brakes. Let's do. So our parking brake is completely retracted. So I'm just gonna show you everything we need to loosen. First you loosen these slider pin bolts, 13 millimeter. Then you're gonna take this Allen head off, which is a 5 millimeter Allen. So this one here, that'll give you some play with the bracket. Then you're gonna remove that 18 mil and that 18 mil right there, and everything will come off. So your slider pin, sorry, your bracket is disconnected. Now you got that. Both your pins are out. Just grab a screwdriver and you're just gonna pry this all out. You're replacing everything anyways. All right. Give me a second. There we go. Okay. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to push our piston back in. So you're going to need a tool like this. And it doesn't need to go much. It just needs to go back in just slightly. Slide her in here. Tighten it up. And that's it. Give her a good turn. Okay. There, it's all the way in. It should be, because we retracted it, the caliper, right? Okay. So the next step is we're going to take out our pads. I know they're new, but I have brand new ones from a while ago. These are the same as a Q5, 2009 to 2011. So I had an extra set of that I ordered by accident. Check your slider pins; they're moving fine. Take these old ones off. Grab your 18 millimeter. And there's not enough room for brackets and sockets, so this is what I do. Grab a rubber mallet. Put your thing on there and just give it a good whack just to loosen everything up. Okay, same thing here. You hear it loosening up. Done. So now I'm just going to remove those bolts. So here's our bracket removed. Same idea as the front. Remove your rotor. Tighten first, loosen second. Whoever put this on before, way too tight. That's literally like 10 Newton meters. That's how tight it should be. I don't know why people are over torquing it. Okay. Clean the hub surface. As you can see how much rust there is on there. That is why in Canada we put anti-seize on the hubs. We don't live in Florida. Once you have your caliper bracket cleaned and new shims installed, I have a good video on a CRV brake service that shows you how to properly do this. Reinstall everything. First things first, lubricate the hub. I know everyone's like, oh my god, he's lubricating the hub, oh my god. But did you guys just see it? It was full of corrosion. So you think corrosion's better than some anti-seize? Come on, guys. Seriously. Clean off your rotor. If there has anything on it. I already cleaned mine off with brake clean. Get it in the right spot. Does not need to be tight. If you use an impact, use the smallest impact you have. So, see, that's a small one. It took a massive one to remove it. Okay, next step, I'm going to put our bracket on and our 18s back on, and we're just going to get good and tight because I'm not replacing the bolts. If you were to replace the bolts, then there was a proper torque for it. But because you're reusing these aluminum bolts, I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be replaced. I'm not replacing them, so I just give it good and tight, and it should be fine. Now we're going to install our pads. Both pads are the same on both sides. Like I said, this is just, you guys can use whatever you want. One. Same thing on the other side. Don't get any lubricant on the actual braking surface. That'll not be good. There was so much rust in that pad. The fuck? Okay, make sure you don't bend those tabs. go. Make sure your little pins are back. That's what pulls the pad back, so make sure they work. Get your caliper. We pushed it in with the computer. Oh, it needs to go more still. Hold on. Alright, I retracted the caliper a little bit more. Now it should be good. Lots of rust everywhere. Put your little bolts back on. Get your bracket bolt back on. Just line it up. Okay. Tighten this one up. There it is. Same thing, grab your 13 millimeter, tighten this up. Okay. Okay, that's it. You're done the brakes on this. And now we're going to lower the vehicle down and retract the parking brake again. All right, guys, so everything's done. We're going to climb back in the car. All right. And now we can follow instructions. So the instructions are, turn the ignition switch on to proceed. So now we turn the ignition switch on. And we press, well, let's pump up the pad first. Pump up the brakes. Okay, pump them up. Okay, done. Okay, now press OK. So now it's going to exit service mode. I hope. Hear it? Oh, function not supported. Okay, it says function not supported, but it did something. Okay, so let's activate the parking brake ourselves. Works good. Unlock works too. Okay, let's go to EBC function. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure everything's working and calibrate it. Okay, no. Okay. Okay, look, we're doing a parking brake test. Let's start, make sure everything's good. That's tight. That's loose. That's tight. Okay. Successful. Okay. Now we're going to on, open. Okay. Escape. Now we're going to go to, hold on. I think there was an actuation. Let's see. I thought there was an actuation test for this. Okay. Alright. Alright. Okay. So now we can exit. Well, it's done. Alright. Does it work? On. Okay, beautiful. So we know our parking brake works. Keep it on. Okay. We can turn off the car. Alright. Well, you might want the key in the ignition just to turn the wheel properly. Okay. Okay, now we can leave it like that. So here's some of the fluid that's inside the brake. So I just sucked out the reservoir. So I'm just going to suck out the reservoir today and fill it with fresh fluid. So here we are. Take a look at the fluid. It's like green. That's when it's contaminated. Okay. Let me go get more. Here we go, look, we got a whole entire 500 milliliter bottle worth of brake fluid. Most of the brake fluid's in your reservoir. So if you can suck it out, you get it cleaned up, like I just did, you're getting most of the brake fluid out of the system. So I'd like to bleed it, but I don't have time, so now I'm just going to fill it with some .4 and top off the system.